Ding, 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 the streetcars that moved the Quad Cities. Before the hum of traffic became a part of our lives, before the glow of brake lights crossing the river at dusk, before the rumbling of trucks passing by your house, there was another sound that defined the Quad Cities: the bell of the streetcar. It began in 1868 in Rock Island along 4th Avenue, a simple horse-drawn car, wooden wheels, iron rails, a handful of passengers sitting upright, watching the river towns grow around them. By 1869, Davenport had its own line, and soon after Moline and East Moline followed. At first there was no electricity, no overhead wires, just horses, and sometimes even donkeys pulling heavy wooden cars through mud, snow, and summer dust. In those early years, the Mississippi River was both connector and obstacle. One rare photograph shows a horse-drawn streetcar crossing the government bridge toward Arsenal Island, the river running low beneath it. Workers, soldiers, factory hands, they rode those rails daily. The arsenal depended on them. The towns depended on them. And like so much in the Quad Cities, industry and imagination went hand in hand. Bailey Davenport, entrepreneur and dreamer, asked a simple question in the 1880s. How do you get more people to ride the streetcar? His answer was brilliant. Build an amusement park at the end of the line. In 1888, Watchtower Amusement Park opened high above the river bluffs. Roller coasters, shoot-the-chutes, picnics, music, merry-go-round, and every one of those visitors arrived by streetcar. The tracks didn't just carry workers, they carried families, courtships, Sunday best. But everything was about to change. In October 1889, Moline became the first city in Illinois and only the third in the entire United States to electrify its streetcars. The cost, $16,750. The impact, revolutionary. No more old Dobbin straining up Brady Street Hill. No more steam dummy engines pushing cars up steep Rock Island grades. The first electric streetcar in Davenport successfully climbed Brady Street, a feat once thought impossible. And on that electrifying day in Moline, the president of the company, W.R. Moore, stood in a top hat and let children ride for free. Imagine it, sparks overhead, bells ringing, kids laughing as they felt the future pulling them forward. But progress came with hardship. On April 22, 1889, a devastating fire swept through the Rock Island car barn at 30th Street and 5th Avenue. 42 horses perished. 15 cars were destroyed, tons of feed and harnesses lost. It was a brutal reminder of how fragile the system still was. And then again in 1913, lightning struck another car barn. 94 of 101 streetcars were destroyed in a single blaze. Yet each time they rebuilt, because by the early 1900s, the streetcar was the bloodstream of the Quad Cities. Tracks crisscrossed Davenport, Rock Island, Moline, East Moline, Milan, and Silvis. Over a dozen companies operated at various times. By 1907 alone, more than 60 streetcars were constructed locally in Rock Island shops. This wasn't just transportation, it was local industry, local pride. In 1902, the Tri-City Railway Company cut fares from a dime to a nickel to boost ridership to Watchtower, a nickel, affordable enough for factory workers, students, mothers with children. Real estate ads boasted proximity to the Elm car line. Homes were sold on the promise of easy access to rails. Your address meant mobility. They ran through floodwaters in Spencer Square. They rattled over the Hennepin Canal. They crossed Arsenal Island on brick-paved swing spans. Open-air summer cars carried passengers through East Moline in 1915. Conductors stood proudly beside their people catcher guards on the front of the cars. Students rode them to Davenport High. Workers stepped off at French and Hecht. Theatergoers disembarked near Fort Armstrong. There were tokens, little metal discs carried in coat pockets. There was even a pamphlet called As You Ride, filled with jokes and theater listings for passengers passing the time. And yes, there were accidents. In 1926, a brake failure led to a collision between a streetcar and an interurban at Telegraph Road and Rolfe Street. 12 passengers were injured. Newspapers sometimes printed graphic images. The world was changing. Automobiles were multiplying. There is a photograph from the 1920s of a streetcar stuck in snow. An advertisement on its front promotes an upcoming auto show. The irony is almost too perfect. By 1926, buses were quietly introduced on some Davenport routes not served by rails. Rubber tires did not require overhead wires. They did not need tracks embedded in brick streets. The beginning of the end had arrived. Through the 1930s, lines were gradually abandoned. The skyline changed, the wires thinned. By October 14, 1939, nearly all lines were gone except one, the bridge line running from Davenport to Rock Island across the Government Bridge. And then came the final night. April 16, 1940, 1:25 a.m. Charles Shellhorn, who decades earlier had piloted the very first electric streetcar up Brady Street Hill, now drove the last one home. As he made his final run from Rock Island to the car barns in Davenport, cars lined the route. People honked their horns. They waved. They understood something historic was ending. The very next day, 7 red and yellow diesel buses began service. From horses to electricity to diesel. 73 years. In August 1940, many of the old streetcars were sold to Midland Iron and Steel in East Moline, repurposed as cottages and lunchrooms. The car barns became bus garages. By 1947, diesel buses filled the old Fifth Avenue facility. Today, the rails are mostly gone, but not entirely. In 2017, wooden ties were unearthed at 2nd and Brady during underground work. Ghosts beneath the pavement. One surviving Tri-City Railway car, number 483, still exists at the Illinois Railway Museum, a tangible reminder. But perhaps the real legacy is less visible. The streetcars shaped where we built our homes, where we placed our parks, where children gathered on summer nights. They connected Arsenal Island to Rock Island. They carried soldiers, steelworkers, students, sweethearts. They made the Quad Cities feel like one town. And if you stand quietly on Brady or in downtown Rock Island and close your eyes, maybe you can still hear it. Ding, ding, ding.